Yud Vav. If one robs another or borrows from him or deposits something with him in a settled region, he may not return it to him in the wilderness on condition that he was going out to the wilderness. He may return it to him in the wilderness. If one says to another, I robbed you, you lent me, or you deposited with me, I do not know whether I returned it to you or whether I did not return it to you. He is obligated to pay. But if he says to him, I do not know whether I robbed you, whether you lent me or whether you deposited with me, he is exempt from paying. If one steals a lamb from the flock and returns it and it dies and is stolen, he is responsible for it. If the owners were aware neither of its theft nor of its return, and they counted the flock and it was complete, he's exempt.
Okay. Mishna tes in lochin minaroim tzemer v'chalav v'gedim. So one is not permitted to purchase wool or milk or young kids from shepherds, because there's a suspicion that this is stolen from the flocks that they were actually looking after. This is talking about professional shepherds who who don't own their own flocks. They're hired hands. So now buying from them looks a little suspicious, because where do they get this from? Okay. And similarly, if you have somebody who's known to be the guardian of a fruit orchard, you're not allowed to buy fruit from him, because where's he going to get it? Where's he getting it from? Okay. But in Yehuda, it is permitted to buy woolen articles from women, and linen articles in the Galil, and also agalim are carts. No, egel. Sorry, beg your pardon. Egel is a cart.
Yeah, it says calves in Sharon.
Right. You're allowed to buy them. Why? Because in all of these places, it's the general way for women to make and sell these things, to complement the household income. So that's assumed to be legitimate. And if any of them says anything that suggests that you need to keep this a secret deal, then you have to say, this is not legitimate. If you're trying to keep it a secret, then this is probably stolen property. Therefore, we don't deal with you. And there's no restriction on chickens and eggs, because there's no chashash of geneva. But again, even in this case, if the seller said, listen, opens up his coat and says, you want to buy some eggs, that's also something to stay away from.
Okay.
Okay. Mishna Yud, Mochin Shakoves Motzi. Okay, so now it's an interesting cultural insight, this Mishnah, because the things that we're looking at over here are so pikayun. You think, like, really? Is somebody going to make a fuss over that? But that's, because we're a wealthy generation, Baruch Hashem. But in a time of scarcity, every little thread and every little patch, might be something that's worth something to somebody. It might be worth less than a shava prota, but nonetheless, you're not allowed lechatchila to take something that's not yours, even if it's less than a shava prota. Right? Even though there's no legal recourse for it. So moch is a basically clumps of wool that. So the koves is the launderer. So you've got a dry cleaner or a launderer or whatever, and he finds clumps of wool in the clothing. He's allowed to keep these. But if the comber, if the guy is combing the wool, finds loose pieces of wool, those he must return to the Baal Habayis. Okay, why? Because it's he's finding lots of them. The Baal Habayis he's busy combing. And the more he combs, the more he's going to find. So the Baal Habayis is going to be makpid on this. Hakoves notel shlosh afutin v'hen shelo. So now again back to the launderer. So there are three threads on the ends which are sewn onto the edge of the garment. Because the way of the weavers of clothing is to put three threads of a different type at the edge of the beged,
Uh-huh.
And that's what the laundry is supposed to use to pull and tighten and straighten out the bigots that look straight.
Yeah.
Interesting. So another little cultural insight into how their clothing was made, because I mean these lovely cotton garments that we've got over here, which are machine woven, are extremely fine. There's teeny little threads and whatever. I don't think that the clothing that they were wearing had threads this fine, or that the weave was this tight. So if the weave is a little looser, then you can imagine the clothes getting a little bit out of shape. In which case, it's useful to have some threads some different shaped threads that you can pull to tighten and shape the garments a little bit. Koves notel shlosha chutzim v'hen shelo. And if the launderer can take these three threads, and it's not a big thing if they come out, then the koves is allowed to keep them. Yasem can, however, if he takes out more than this, then it's going to belong to the balabais. That's all of the chutzim, not just the ones after the third one. Im haya hashachor al gabe halavan. If you had black threads on white, notel is hakol v'hen shelo, then he can take them out. He can take out the black ones because they're ugly. You don't want them. They're not supposed to be on the edge of the garment. And he's doing the balabais a favor, I guess, by removing them. Difficult to have a picture of what's happening here, because it's like so out of our experience. A chayat, so a tailor, sheshir min achut kedei litforbo. So he left over on the edge of his thread enough to sew with, and that's a very short amount of thread. Umatlis shehi shalosh al shalosh, or a little patch that's 3 by 3, shalosh al shalosh etzbaot. That's 3 fingers, 3 finger breadth square. Right, elu shel balabais. These things belong to the balabais, because the balabais gives the material to the tailor. So if there's enough left over to do something with, and that's enough thread to sew with, or a 3 by 3 patch, that he must return to the balabais. And now you've got a carpenter. He's got a plane, right? Which he uses to smooth out the wood and remove the splinters. Okay, what he finds in the matzat hare edu shelo. So the shavings belong to him. Uva kashil shel balabais. So the kashil is
hatchet, they say.
The hatchet, right? So what? Hatchet. So that belongs to the balabais, because it's a much coarser thing when you're chopping. The pieces that come off are big. They're not just shavings. Ve'im haya ose etel balabais, but if he's actually working on the premises of the balabais, afanosores shel balabais, even the sawdust belongs to the balabais, which sawdust you can use to throw in your fireplace and give it a little bit more strength. Okay, Hadron lech maseches Bava Kamma.
Let's see.
And we're going to do one Mishna in Bava Metzia. As we mentioned at the beginning of Bava Kamma, it's really one Masechta. All Bava Kamma, Metzia, and Basra is really all one Masechta, but for convenience, I guess it's broken down into three volumes.
If 2 persons are holding a cloak.
Oh, that's me. It's me.
Oh, that's right. It's
Shnaim Ochazin Batalis. The 2 guys come into Beis Din, and both of them are holding onto a talus, and they're claiming that this is a Metzia. And it's a Metzia that they don't have to return because it's got no simanim on it, or the Baalim had Yush. Whatever the circumstances are, we can make up the circumstances ourselves, but there's Yush. Okay? Or it could be the Yerush, it could be something that belongs to a ger who died. And they both dived on his talus to say, I want that talus. It was a nice talus, okay? And each one thinks that he got it first. And the other one grabbed it off him. I found it. Yeah. Okay. And this each one says it's all mine. Now that's an important thing, is that they're both claiming that that they got the Metzia first, they made the Kinyan first, and therefore the whole thing belongs to them and not to the other person. Okay, so now what's going to happen is the ultimate result is we're going to split it 50-50 because there's nothing to decide between the two of them. Each one of them has a claim on all of the objects. We have no way of deciding who got it first, because if there were witnesses, then this whole shiloh wouldn't be a shiloh. Okay, so now since the outcome is going now, the Ikar Hadin over here would be that, okay, we just split it 50-50 between the two of them. But because we don't want to create a situation where a Ganav can just come and grab hold of somebody else's object and say, I found it, it's all mine, and he gets 50%, we impose a shvur on them. And because we don't want both of them to be, since both of them are going to be taking only half, we only impose the shvur on half of the object, even though each one says the whole thing is mine. He says, I take a shvur that I own no less than half of this garment. We don't let him make a shvur that he owns the whole garment, because it's going to cause ill will, and then one of them is going to be lying, even if they both think they're telling the truth. Okay, so we say each one must take a shvur that they own no less than 50% of it. And now we sell it and split the proceeds 50-50. Ze omer kula sheli. However, if the situation is the first guy comes and says, I got it first, and he says, no, we grabbed it simultaneously, so therefore it's a 50-50. Okay, so now you think the guy who's saying, no, we did it simultaneously. He's the one who's being fair. He's being nice, but nice guys finish last over here. So what's going to be the outcome of this is we take a look at their claims, and the guy who says Chetzia Sheli is conceding that the other half belongs to the other guy. So about that half, there's no argument. Everyone agrees that it belongs to the other guy. So now they're both arguing about just the remaining half. In which case, you look at it, and each one is saying on that half, kula sheli, kula sheli. So now we play the beginning of the Mishnah and say, okay, they're going to take a shvur that you have no less than a half of that half. So Yishaba, okay. Ha'omer kula sheli Yishaba she'en ba pachos mishlosha chalakim. So the first guy must take a shvur that he owns no less than 3/4 of this garment. And the other guy has to take a shvur that he owns no less than a quarter. And they split it 75-25. All right.
Okay.
Good. Back to Bava Kamma. Chestalent.
Okay. It is advisable to class with a deaf mute, a mentally deranged person, or a minor. If one wounds them, he is liable. But if they would wound others, they are exempt. It is inadvisable to class with a slave or with a woman. If one wounds them, he is liable. But if they wound others, they are exempt, although they must pay later. Should the wound come forced or the slave freed, they are obligated to pay. If one strikes his father or his mother and inflicts a wound upon them, or if one wounds another on the Sabbath, he is exempt from all of them because he is liable for his life. If one wounds his own Gentile slaves, he is exempt from all of them. If one cuffs another, he must give him a selah. Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Rabbi Yossi the Galilean, Amana. If he slaps him, he must give him 200 zuz with the back of his hand. He must give him 400 with the back of his hand. He must give him 400 zuz. If he pulls his ear, tears his hair, spits at him, and spittle reaches him, removes his cloak, or uncovers a woman's hair in the street, he must pay 400 zuz. This is the general rule. It all depends on his covet. Rabbi Akiva says, even the poorest of Jews are looked upon as though they were sons of noblemen who lost their wealth, and for they are the children of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. There was an incident of one who uncovered a woman's hair in the street. She came before Rabbi Akiva, who sentenced him to give her 400 zuz. Said he to him, Rabbi, give me time. And he gave him time. He waited for her until he saw her standing at the entrance of her courtyard, and then broke a jug which contained oil worth an isser in her presence. Covered her head and was scooping it up and placing her hand on her head. He set up witnesses against her and came before Rabbi Akiva, said to him, Rabbi, to this one I should give 400 zuz. Said he to him, you have said nothing, because if one wounds himself, although he may, did I skip? No, wounds himself, although he may not, he is exempt. Yet if others wound him, they are liable. And if one cuts off his own shoots, although he may not, he is exempt. Yet if others cut off his shoots, they are liable.
Okay.
No, that's right. Okay, good. Okay. All right. Was that all? Was that
Yeah,
three?
Kiddushin. We're on to
Okay.
Kiddushin.
I'm confused over here. Okay, Kedushin. A man betrothed a woman by himself or through his agent. A woman is betrothed by herself or through her agent. A man gives his daughter in Kedushin when she is a Nahara by himself or through his agent. If one says to a woman, "He betrothed to me, be betrothed to me with this date, be betrothed to me with this one." If one of them has the value of a pruta, she is betrothed. If not, she is not betrothed. If he says with this and with this and with this, if there is a value of a pruta of all of them, she is betrothed. If not, she is not betrothed. If she was eating them one by one, she is not betrothed unless one of them has the value of a pruta. If a man said to a woman, betrothed to me with this cup of wine, and it was found to be honey or of honey, and it was found to be wine with this dinner of silver, and it was found to be of gold or of gold, and it was found to be of silver, on condition that I am a rich man, and he was found to be a poor man, or a poor man, and he was found to be a rich man, she is not betrothed. Reb Shimon says, if he deceived her to her advantage, she is betrothed. Okay. Be betrothed to me on condition that I am a Kohen. And it was found, and he was found to be a Levi, or a Levi, and he was found to be a Kohen, or a Nissanite, and he was found to be a Mamzer, or a Mamzer, and he was found to be a Nissanite, or a townsman, and he was found to be a city dweller, or a city dweller, and he was found to be a townsman, on condition that my house is close to the bathhouse, and it was found to be distant, and it was found to be close, on condition that I have a daughter, or a slave who makes braids, and he does not, or on condition that I do not have, and he has, on condition I have no sons, and he does have, or on condition that I have, and he does not. In all these cases, although she said, I intended to be betrothed to him, nonetheless, she is not betrothed, and the same applies if she deceived him.
Okay. Nadarim.
Okay. Oh. What is something of the pilgrims from Bava? Things like the Temple Mount, the Temple Court, and the well in the middle of the highway. What is something of that city? Things like the public square, the bathhouse, the synagogue, the ark, and the books. One who assigns a share to the president. Rabbi Yehuda said both one who assigns to the president and one who assigns to an ordinary person. What is the difference between one who assigns to the president and one who assigns to an ordinary person? That one who assigns to the president need not give it to someone to take possession on behalf of the president. The Kamma, however, say both this one and that one must give their share to someone to take possession on their behalf. They spoke of the president only to reflect the current practice. Rabbi Yehuda says the people of Galilee need not assign since their fathers have already assigned for them. If someone prohibited by a neder to benefit from another and he has nothing to eat, the other person may give it to someone else as a gift, and he has permitted it. That happened that a person in Beth Koran whose father was prohibited by a neder to benefit from him was marrying off a son. He said to another, the courtyard and banquet are given to you as a gift, but are yours only so that father can come and eat with us at the banquet. He replied, if they are mine, then they are dedicated to heaven. He said, I did not give you what was mine in order for you to dedicate it to heaven. He replied, you gave me yours only so that you and your father could eat and drink and appease each other, and the sin should be on my head. When the matter came before the Kamma, they said, any gift which is not sincere, which is sanctified, is not sacred, it is not a gift. And that's three, right?
One more.
Really?
Yeah, it was a long one.
All right. One who makes a net of prohibiting what is cooked or permitted what is roasted and what is overcooked. If he said, Kohanim cook food with respect to my tasting it, he is forbidden to taste the food made in a pot, but is permitted to taste solids. He is permitted to taste soft-boiled eggs and a gourd baked in hot ashes.
Okay.
Okay, Zion. Reb Meir said, from their words we infer that we may burn uncontaminated truma, which is chametz, with contaminated truma on Pesach. Reb Yossi said to him, this is not an angle, I can't get this down.
Analogous.
I know I can't. Analogous, even if Reb Eliezer and Reb Yehuda concern that each is burned separately. Concerning what to do, they differ. Concerning suspended and contaminated truma, where Reb Eliezer said that each must be burned separately, but Reb Yehuda says that both may be burned together. As long as it is permitted to eat chametz, one may feed it to livestock, beasts and birds, and sell it to the Gentile, and deriving benefit from it is permitted. When its period has passed, deriving benefit from it is forbidden, and one may not fire an oven or arrange with it. But Yehuda says there is no removal of chametz except by burning. But the comments say he may also crumble it and throw it to the wind or cast it into the sea. Chametz of a Gentile over which Pesach has passed, deriving benefit from it is permitted, but chametz of a Jew deriving benefit from it is forbidden, since it is said, "No, nor shall leaven be seen with you."
Okay. Nida.
Okay. Vav. Every growth that is subject to paya is subject to tithes, but there can be a growth that is subject to tithes but not subject to paya. Every animal that is subject to rishis hagez is subject to the priestly gifts, but there can be an animal that is subject to the priestly gifts but is not subject to the rishis hagez.
There's shearings, yeah.
Every growth that is subject to beer is subject to shavias, but there can be a growth that is subject to vias but is not subject to beer.
Okay. That's it. It's easy.
And the choros.
Yeah. Hey, base.
Well, hey, base. Beit Shammai says, excuse me, Yisrael may not be invited to join with the Kohen in a Bakor. Beis Hillel, however, permits it, and even a non-Jew. If a Bakor suffers from a congestion of blood, even if he will die, it may not be bled. These are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. The Kamma, however, say he may let his blood, provided he does not inflict a blemish upon it. And if he did inflict a blemish upon it, he may not be slaughtered on its account. Reb Shimon says he may bleed it even though he inflicts a blemish upon it. If one slits the ear of a Bekor, it may never be slaughtered. These are the words of Reb Eliezer. And the common, however, say when it develops another blemish, you may slaughter it on its account. It happened with an old ram with dangling hair that a quester spotted. He said, "What is the reason for this?" And they said to him, "It's a Bekor, and it may not be slaughtered unless there's a blemish." Whereupon he took a dagger and slit its ear. The matter came before the government, and they permitted it. When he saw that they had permitted it, he went and split the ear of the other Bakaras, and they prohibited it. Once children were playing in the field, and they tied the tail of a lamb to a donkey. The tail of one of them was torn off, and it was found to be a Bakor. The matter came before the government, and they permitted it. When they saw that they permitted it, they went and tied the tails of all the other Bakaras, and they prohibited it. This is a rule. Whatever is done with knowledge is prohibited, whatever without knowledge is permissible. If a Bakor was pursuing him and he kicked it and inflicted a blemish upon it, he may slaughter on account of it. For all blemishes that can be inflicted by man, shepherds who are Yisraelim are believed, but shepherds who are Kohanim are not believed. Reb Shimon Gamliel says he is believed concerning his friend's Bakor, but he is not believed concerning his own. Reb Meir says one who is suspected concerning a thing may neither judge nor testify about it. It's interesting that they don't believe the Kohanim.
Yeah, why? Because the Kohen is Nogea B'Davo. Right? It's because he's the one who's going to get the Bechor. Right. So we don't trust the Kohen shepherds. The Yisraelim have got no interest in it. They say, oh, look, it developed a mum. So he doesn't get any benefit from it. So therefore we trust him.
Okay, great. We'll go for 7:45 tomorrow. That's good.
Yep. Tomorrow in we should, if we can start early, that'd be better because I'll probably be pre-Shacharis, but we'll see how things are going.